All right. We've got the live stream going and we're going to hit record so that we can share a recording with everybody tomorrow. Donnie, is that Brownwood? Yes, Tracy. Looks good. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We are so excited tonight about welcoming Sarah Bird to our virtual event program. And before we get going officially, I have a few housekeeping items and notes to share with you all. So if you'll bear with me for just a moment. Tonight, we are so glad to welcome Sarah Bird for our presentation, Juneteenth Rodeo, a celebration of 1970s Black Western culture. I'm Christy Peliquin, the development manager for the Friends of the Texas Historical Commission, and I'm joined tonight by my colleague, Tracy Anderson. So between the two of us, if you have a question, we're here to help you. We're so glad you've stopped by, and we would love for you to get to know more about us and the work that we do. We are the nonprofit partner to the state agency, the Texas Historical Commission. In our role as the nonprofit partner, we raise funding for historic preservation efforts across the state. And you can get involved by clicking our What We Do page on our website at thcfriends.org. And by the way, I just wanted to say a special thank you to all of you who've chosen to support us with donations through these events. They mean the world to us. We're grateful for every dollar that comes through, so thank you so much. I want to acknowledge our THC commissioners, our Friends board members, as well as some of our colleagues with the Texas Historical Commission who are here with us tonight. We are always so glad to see you. If you haven't already followed us on social media, please do. This is how you can stay up to date with different events that we have going on. In September, on the 5th, we will have our next virtual event. It will be called Life and Death on Texas's Antebellum Frontier, from the Red River to El Paso. And it's by author and researcher Glenn Ely. It's going to be really special. If you love Texas history, you're going to want to tune in for this one. All right, just a few housekeeping items. We always appreciate it if you can keep your microphones on mute. That just helps us better focus on our presenter. And then we will have a Q&A session once our presenter is done with their presentation. But how we like to run that is, while the presentation is going on, if you'll go ahead and put your questions into the chat, that'll help us make a queue. And so when we get to the Q&A, we'll just move through the queue of questions that are in the chat. So feel free to put those in while we are talking. I also wanted to let you know that tomorrow I will be sending an email to everyone who registered for tonight's event. And in the email, you will find a link to a recording, so you can share that with folks if you'd like. We will also provide links to any resources that Sarah mentions tonight, including her book that she's going to be talking about. So please stay tuned for that email. If you don't see that email, check your spam or junk folders. Every once in a while, our emails go into people's spam folders, and we're not able to control that on our end. So do check there. Before I introduce tonight's speaker, I wanted to let you know about a couple of cool things. One, if you are in Austin, this is that special treat I was talking about, please do make time to drop by the Neil Cochran House Museum. That is where you can see the exhibit of the photos that Sarah's going to talk about tonight in person. And they're really amazing to see in person. They're large, so you can spend time sort of gazing into each one and really stepping into that world for a moment. The exhibit will run through September 1st, and I know the folks at the Neil Cochran House will be so happy to see you. I also wanted to let you know that these photographs are going to become part of a traveling exhibit through Humanities Texas. That exhibit is going next, I think in the spring, to the Whitliff Collection at Texas University's Whitliff Museum. I can't remember if it's called museum or just their exhibit place, but it's in their library on campus. So if you're anywhere near San Marcos, Texas, and you want to stop by Texas State University, go to their library and you'll find the Whitliff collection. You can also find out more places where the exhibit is going to travel by staying tuned to Humanities Texas website. I think we have a link for you somewhere. And you could also just reach out to them directly for a list. So, okay, that's a lot of preamble. Thank you for hanging in there with me. So it's my privilege to introduce tonight's speaker, Sarah Bird is the best-selling author of more than a dozen novels and essay collections. She is an NPR Moth storyteller, a winner of the Meryl Streep screenwriting competition, a Texas Institute of Letters Lifetime Achievement winner, an Alex Award winner, a member of the Texas Literary Hall of Fame, a finalist for the Dublin International Literary Award, and the hologram greeter for the Austin Central Library. Sarah, we are so excited to have you here tonight.
Hey, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you. And thank everyone for tuning in, clicking on, whatever we're doing here. But I am thrilled to see there's somebody from Harpswell, Maine. Hello, Mary Beth Juster. You win the prize for this travel. You know, I don't know how long it was to get to the front of your laptop. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us this evening. I'm going to be talking about, this book right here, a project that took me 50 years to bring to fruition. Yeah, that's right. Just a brief half century. So I guess, my key to overnight publishing success is stay alive, remain upright, mission sort of accomplished. Before I get into my very long journey with Black Rodeos, I would love to thank the wonderful staff of the Friends of the Texas Historical Commission. Christy and Tracy have been wonderful to work with, and I appreciate you hosting this program. I appreciate all of you out there who support their vital work and make it possible. So, keep on doing what you're doing. I am now going to attempt to share my screen and get this party started. Let's just see how technically adept I am. All right, share screen.
Not seeing it yet. Try again.
Well,
Could you click share?
Precisely.
There we go.
There we go. There we go. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. And now I'm going to make this full screen. Theoretically, there we are.
Perfect. That looks great, Sarah.
Good. Thanks. So far, so good. So this is a little summary of some of the places I went, not all of them. And this is a picture of my wonderful collaborator, Will Van Overbeck. And this is me looking at my photos come to life for the first time in 50 years. I'll tell you the very long story of how that all happened. But it is really thrilling for me to be able to share these images at a time when Black Western culture is not only finally being recognized, but celebrated. For example, Beyonce's latest album, the one with cowboy in the title, hit #1 on the country charts. There are Black champions in pro rodeo. Gorgeous photo books document the world of today's Black cowboys and girls. That was very far from the case in the late 70s when I started submitting my photos for publication. Back then, I was told repeatedly by presses, both large and small, that there was, quote, no audience, no interest in a book about Black cowboys. So my heart and bank account broken, I stored my negatives and prints away in boxes under my bed, and there they would have languished had it not been for a worldwide pandemic. Shamed by Marie Kondo, I attempted some tidying. When I pulled those boxes of negatives and prints out from under my bed, stared again at those images, I knew one thing for certain. I knew that somehow, some way, I had to return those photos to the communities who had created such vibrant events. And now, almost 50 years later, the University of Texas Press is letting me fulfill that obligation with the publication of Juneteenth Rodeo. Amidst the current acclaim that the contemporary Black rodeo scene is receiving, the photos I took so long ago feel like a lost archive, documenting the long years of invisibility when the general public was almost unaware of the existence of Black cowboys and Black ranching culture. I remember when I first started bringing those photos I took at Black rodeos back to Austin. I had more than one friend say some version of, "Wow, I didn't know there were Black cowboys." None of my friends said it in a mean way. It was simply that Hollywood and popular history of that time had taught us that cowboys had three defining characteristics: giant hat, big boots, and white skin. My long journey with rodeos started back in 1974 when the University of Texas stuck a camera in my hand. This was a time before everyone walked around with the equivalent of a photo studio and a dark room that also very occasionally made phone calls in their back pocket. This was a time when having an actual camera strapped around your neck was like a passport to anywhere you wanted to go. And as a newcomer to Texas, I had many places I wanted to go. I was fascinated by all the oddities in the state that were new to me. I photographed rattlesnake roundups, sorority rushes, honky-tonk dance halls, and rodeos, especially rodeos. I was a highly unlikely candidate to fall under rodeo's spell. Child of the military, the only livestock I ever encountered growing up came in shrink-wrap packages from the base commissary. My interest, however, was not primarily in what happened in the arena. No. What intrigued me was witnessing how each group remade this most American, most mainstream of pastimes in their own image. How they created distinct worlds that orbited the arenas on their own unique trajectories. The first mainstream rodeo I attended was the Stamford Cowboy Reunion. As with all the mainstream rodeos I visited, it seemed the organizers believed that the job description for cowboys started off with same old must wear big hat and boots and ended with only whites need apply. The police rodeos I photographed were more of the same. Kids rodeos were junior versions of the basic model, training the cow kids how to be genuine cowboys. For example, this dreamy, tousle-haired little buckaroo and his mom came to symbolize one of the main requirements I found for cowboyhood: stoicism. I remember when Mom was adjusting her son's stirrups, she bragged to me about how the year before her son had gotten throwed during the steer riding. She knew from his face that he was hurt, bad hurt. But she told me with pride, he didn't cry till he got back behind the chutes out of view of the crowd. Only then did she come to find out that her little boy's leg was broke. The young women at what were called girls' rodeos back then were also trying to prove that they were cowboys. It was clear, though, that many of the attendees did not consider them to be the real thing. I heard more than one beer-gutted spectator yell out during the rough stock events, "Ride the women, not the bulls." Super classy. I witnessed superb horsemanship and world-class roping at the White Mountain Apache Rodeo in Arizona, where I also made a new friend. At a sold-out rodeo in Gallup, New Mexico, I photographed this amazing barrel racer. When I asked the Navajo team roper why rodeo was so popular, he answered, "Because there's not enough water on the res for golf courses." Navajos have wicked senses of humor. At the charreadas I visited, I witnessed superb horsemanship. No. I just read the wrong thing. At the charreadas I visited, I witnessed superb horsemanship, a grand sense of pageantry, and impressive outfits, not to mention some even more impressive attitudes. But I don't think I truly understood the power of the cowboy rodeo until I shot several old timers rodeos. Like, look at this guy here. In spite of being injured and having bones brittle as peppermint sticks, this old buckaroo happily strapped on the spurs and climbed aboard a bronc for one more chance at 8 seconds of glory. One more chance to win that big buckle that renewed his right to call himself cowboy. Yes, I photographed them all. I even heard of a nudist rodeo in California, naturally. I never did get close enough to that one to learn the true meaning of bareback riding, to say nothing of rawhide. But the first time I actually saw a black cowboy competing in a rodeo was at the Huntsville Prison Rodeo. An article in Ebony magazine pointed out that the only truly desegregated rodeos in the South at that time were, in fact, prison rodeos. Back in those pre-internet days, it was not easy finding out about any non-professional small-town rodeos. I first heard about the existence of black rodeos at this livestock auction in Clovis, New Mexico. Ultimately, this photo became emblematic for me of my entire project, which was to return the black cowboy to the center of the frame. The first black rodeo I documented was held at an iconic venue for cowboys and cowgirls of color, the Diamond Ale Ranch and Arena. Once located on far South Main outside of Houston, the fabled Diamond Ale was the epicenter of the Gulf Coast rodeos that comprised what was known as the Soul Circuit. It was at that first rodeo that I saw posters like the ones behind this roper and found out about the next rodeo. At that rodeo, I saw posters for the next one and then the next. Those posters took me on a journey through some of the smallest of small Texas towns: Egypt, El Campo, Fresno, Kendleton, Plum, Pin Oak. Almost more reunion than rodeo, the rodeos I visited in these rural outposts celebrated community as much as competition. My photos capture the final days of a time when the sport was still rooted in the business of actual ranching, when many, if not most, of the competitors had grown up riding and roping. Rodeo skills at that time and place were honed not on the back of a mechanical bull, but in the saddle of a horse the cowboys had most likely broken and trained themselves. I photographed men and women who knew how to rope, dope, brand, and dehorn a steer. In spite of this expertise, the other factor that shaped black rodeos was that, except for a very few rare exceptions, black competitors and spectators weren't welcome at white rodeos in Texas. This injustice was one of the many elements that shaped black rodeos into such extraordinary affairs. Whatever the secret sauce was, I could smell it from the first whiff of barbecue that invariably greeted a visitor. And I could see it in the sight of a shoot man wearing a shirt that sported the Jackson 5. And I could hear it in the sound of boogie fever pouring forth from the loudspeakers. From the very first, it was clear that black rodeos were unlike any other. At the rodeos I knew in the late 1970s, friendship and fun were always the grand prizes. To help you experience the magic of this bygone world, I would like to take you on a journey through an imaginary single day at the best of all the black rodeos, a Juneteenth rodeo. Although the photos you will see were shot at several different arenas and times between the years 1977 and 1979, taken together, they faithfully convey the spirit of a Juneteenth rodeo. Our dream day starts early with the arrival of Burnell Jammer, the all-important pit master. Imagine being greeted by the mouth-watering aroma of meat slowly smoking over post oak, maybe some tangy mesquite. That fragrance goes a long way towards creating the party vibe that thrums throughout the day. For many, the holiday marks the day when a parade of former residents comes home from the big city, usually Houston, to the rural communities where they'd grown up. Tailgates are dropped, lawn chairs are popped open, and refreshments are passed around as everyone catches up on the latest news. The buzz of happy conversation and laughter, always, always so much laughter, fills the air. With the adults' attention on catching up on the latest gossip, the cow kids are off on their own adventures. There are just so darn many fences to climb, and so many super cute junior buckaroos to flirt with. Other kids with more sanctified aims, run around selling jumbo bars of chocolate for Ebenezer Baptist Church, while the junior ropers spread out and find a peaceful pastoral spot to limber up their lassoes. Or maybe it's just time to share a pickle with baby sister. Even the grown-ups cut up a bit. Clearly, stoicism, lack of emotion, is not a requirement for Black cowboys and cowgirls. By mid-morning, a deep-throated rumble announces the arrival of the stock contractor's semi-trailers. The opposing team has arrived. The air brakes hiss, the mammoth vehicles shudder and are still. To the bellowing of the dogging steers and roping calves, the snorting of bucking broncos, and the thundering clangs of bulls slamming against the metal walls of the livestock trailers, spectators start to gather in the stands. Rodeo Secretary Gladys Carr, affectionately known as the Queen Bee of the Diamond L, registers Jimmy Powell and collects his entry fee. Gladys Carr, a member of a large rodeo dynasty, collects entry fees, I'm going to read that again. Gladys Carr, member of a large rodeo dynasty, is the heart of the day's events. She signs up all comers, collects entry fees, issues contestant numbers, and performs the all-important draws for the rough stock riders. This is the process of matching cowboy with bronc or bull, some quadruped with a name like Terminator, Gravedigger, Widowmaker. Cowboys cluster together to compare draws. Those who've been assigned dinks moan that they'll never earn a winning score at such low-energy mounts. The few who've drawn a spinner, a slinger, a shoot fighter, or any other fearsome rank crusher put on a brave face as they collect sympathy and tips from other cowboys about how to ride the possibly unrideable animal, the one that might put a horn or a hoof where it ought not be put. And of course, you had to have a buddy to help you pin on your contestant number and hold your cigarette. Back behind the chutes, the cowboys help each other rosin up their riggins, the braided ropes that they hope will keep them attached to their draw. As the cowboys get ready, there is just enough time for Lewis Brown to have a little bit more fun with his wife before the action starts and all attention turns to the arena. The first event, and the only one that women were allowed to compete in, was, of course, barrel racing. Here, Ernestine Roger brings it home for second place. Great barrel racer. Now on to the bronc riding. Champion rough stock rider Archie Wyckoff gingerly settles onto his skittish bronc. Cowboys fear a shoot fighter, a nervous horse that can crush a man's leg just by leaning its 1,000 or so pounds the wrong way. The next rider out of the chute is Russell Mills. The announcer tells us that Russell's nickname is Scrap Iron because this cowboy can take a licking and keep on ticking. Russell takes a tumble and announcer chides him saying, "Ooh-wee, cowboy got his iron scrapped today." And then he warns, "Bronc riders, y'all better be getting your minds on it because these broncs be planning on a late summer and an early fall." The crowd is sympathetic as Scrap Iron does indeed dust himself off and keep right on ticking. Here again is the multi-talented champion Archie Wyckoff, who rode bulls, broncs, and was also a steer wrestler. Wyckoff was famous for having been featured alongside Muhammad Ali in the 1972 documentary Black Rodeo in Harlem. Wyckoff shows off his versatility when he hangs on for 8 interminable seconds and rides his bull to the buzzer. There's a lull in the action and perhaps time for some existential musing as the arena is cleared for the next event, steer wrestling. In a class all its own is steer wrestling. Once more popularly known as bulldogging, this event was created by the renowned Black cowboy and Wild West show performer Bill Pickett. Many count steer wrestling as the most dangerous and a flamboyantly dangerous sport. It's certainly the fastest, with the world record sitting at 2.4 seconds. After all the death-defying action, it's time for a visit to the concession stand. Time to find out if that barbecue is as tasty as it smells. This cowboy gives an entirely new meaning to the term drive-up window. During the admission at many rodeos I attended, there would be a moment for this close-knit community to remember someone who had passed that year. The person I'd like to remember is Rufus Green Sr. Here he is at his ranch near Hempstead, showing his grandson the finer points of tie-down roping. Green, on the far right, watches approvingly as his grandchild gets the job done. Known as the godfather of Black Rodeo, it was my great good fortune to be one of the lucky ones the renowned horseman took under his wing. A roping phenomenon with a riveting story, which I tell in my book, Juneteenth Rodeo. Green competed in more than 2,000 rodeos, racking up enough wins to become one of the first Black cowboys to be awarded membership in the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. Green earned the title Godfather of Black Rodeo as much for his majestic spirit and benevolent mentorship of a couple generations of champion ropers as for his roping skills. The sun is really beaten down by the end of the intermission, and everyone seeks shade wherever they can find it. Though there were always a few white spectators in the crowd, sometimes they didn't want to be photographed, as in the case of the four-fingered man on the right in this image, hiding his face from the camera. It was an honor to meet this pair of realer-than-real cowboys, the Thorne brothers, Ed and Buster, and to hear their stories of working fabled Texas ranches like the 4-6s and the Shanghai Pierce. The other story these cowboy brothers told me was about a woman freed from slavery after the Civil War who joined the Buffalo Soldiers. This became the basis for my 10th novel, Daughter of a Queen, based on the life of Cathay Williams, the only woman known to have served with the Buffalo Soldiers. Robert Dugas, seen here with his wife, pays T-shirt tribute to the legendary Murtis Dightman, the Jackie Robinson of rodeo. We'll talk more about Dightman in a minute, but right now it's time for the roping to start. We've got tie down. We've got breakaway. We have team roping, and apparently we have drone-assisted roping. Actually, that's just the dragonfly that flew too close to my lens. When the last calf is roped and the heat is becoming unbearable, it's time to switch on the arena lights and have a night rodeo. Let's start off the evening with the trailblazing icon, Meredith Deitman. I'd always considered this image to be a sad mistake. As you can see, it was the last shot on the roll of film, and a third of it is cut off. But I've come to really like it. Not only is Deitman standing in front of a fan wearing a Meredith Deitman t-shirt, but the hero appears to be reaching into another dimension. Let's say the future, to anoint the next generation of cow heroes. And if you look closely, you can see that in this case, it is a little bitty, besandaled cowgirl. If you look on the left side of the picture, her mom's holding her, and there's her little foot. And also, did I say that daytime rodeos were a fun affair? Try a nighttime rodeo. If anything, the Juneteenth night rodeo was even more fun. Because when the sun and the temperature went down, everyone loosens up a little bit more. The action might even be livened up a little bit with a few side bets. In this photo, the wise cowboy Lewis Brown is telling the stupid city girl photographer that she needs to get out the arena before the bronc riding starts. Sadly, I didn't own a telephoto lens, an actual real telephoto lens, and I had to take all my riding and roping shots from inside the arena. Fortunately, there was no untoward trampling. On this magic night in 1978, a legend rode. His name is Taylor Hall, Jr., but his fans know him as Bailey's Prairie Kid. The kid had a few trademarks. Whenever he rode, Hall always wore a tie knotted over an impeccably white shirt, and he always had a cigar planted casually in his mouth. Notice that the shirt remains unstained, his tie untucked, and that stogie stays between his lips. It was a great stroke of luck that I preserved this icon of skill and style on one of the final prize-winning rides of his storied career. He retired in his late 40s at an age that considers, from a sport that considers 30 to be dangerously geriatric. Hall, now 53, is an inductee into numerous rodeo halls of fame, and he still lives in Bailey's Prairie. It's time now for the roping. Here the shootmen consult about how to run the event. And I've always wondered, does this roper's horse dip because it sure looks like he's going for that can of Skull in the roper's back pocket? Here, a roper is frozen at the crucial moment when horse and calf together have 6 hooves in the air, 2 on the ground, and the lasso is just about to hit its mark. When the last calf is roped, it's time for the judges to start comparing notes. The rough stock judges consult with Gladys Carr on their final scores, while the great Meredith Deitman listens in. The moment of truth arrives. Gladys Carr is about to deliver the final results to the announcer. There is jubilation for some when the scores are announced and trophies are distributed. For others, there are injuries lightened by the consolation of a trophy or two. One lucky young champion even has his trophy examined by his hero, celebrated on his t-shirt, Meredith Deitman himself. When all the trophies have been distributed, it's time to head to the nearby Blue Lagoon Saloon, where you will always be greeted at the door by friendly faces. At the Blue Lagoon Saloon, the Schlitz and champagne ale are always icy cold. The music is blazing hot, and gold Christmas tinsel on the ceiling wafts in the air conditioner breeze all year round. At the Blue Lagoon, there is a giant dill pickle out of the jar, which will cost you $0.25, and the cigarillo choices are Roytan, El Producto, or Prince Edward. At the Blue Lagoon, your road buddies will always be waiting to tip back a few with you. And everyone is welcome. At the Blue Lagoon, all the broncs and bulls are ridden again, all the calves are roped, the steers are wrestled, and the judge's bad calls are cursed. At the Blue Lagoon, everyone rides the perfect ride and wins the biggest trophy. At the Blue Lagoon, everyone dances with the prettiest cowgirl and the most handsome cowboy. And if you're lucky, Bailey's Prairie Kid might even prove that his moves on the dance floor are just as smooth as they are in the arena. And of course, at the Blue Lagoon, everyone wins the grandest of grand prizes that Black rodeos had to offer: friendship and memories of another unforgettable Juneteenth rodeo. The world I knew was one that will never again have the same players or the same pressures and limitations that made them the most vibrant, the most jubilant of them all. It was a world where the perfect Juneteenth rodeo ended after accomplishing what all Black rodeos accomplished: putting Black cowboys and cowgirls vividly, vibrantly, where they had always belonged, right smack dab at the center of the frame. Thank you all so much for coming with me to visit this bygone world.
Sarah, that was amazing. Thank you so much. And I do, folks, if you haven't already put questions into the chat, please do that now. Before we get to the Q&A, I wanted to invite Rowena Dash, who is the executive director of the Neil Cochran House Museum, to say a few words about the exhibit. Rowena, happy to.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Thanks, Christy. Thanks, Tracy. And of course, the fabulous Sarah for doing this tonight, and Sarah for bringing this work before the public. It's just, I've gotten to live with it all summer long. And you see one of the images blown up actually behind Sarah right there. We got kind of lucky. The printer and framer accidentally double printed and framed one of the images. And so that gives you a sense of the scale. It's immersive, and it is just incredible and joyful to be in the middle of these rooms filled with this work. I also just real quick want to thank Humanities Texas and Frost Bank, who are the ones who made it possible to bring it all to life. As Christy said, you've got about 3 weeks left if you'd like to see the exhibition in person in Austin. It's going to close on the 1st of September. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Neil Cochran House Museum, we are right smack dab in the middle of Austin and West Campus, just to the west of UT. And we have that, you know, most critical of assets in Central Austin, free and plentiful parking. So scared to come see us. You will be able to park. Caveat to that is that we will be hosting an exhibition closing reception on Saturday, August 31st from 4 to 6 p.m. And parking might be a little tight for that show, but that reception. But I will say that we will be pouring Milam and Green cocktails for anybody who shows up. And so if you have to walk a little bit to your car, you know, at least you'll have had a good time while you were with us, right? We are open Wednesday to Sunday from 11 to 4. We also have some pretty fabulous merchandise, including Sarah's book. So support a local nonprofit by getting it from us instead of getting it from Amazon. And we have a pretty awesome t-shirt with the dancing cowboy on it as well. So come see our gift shop. And we do ship if you're not in Austin. If you're not in Austin, as Christy said, the exhibition may well be coming to your community someday soon in the next couple of years. So keep an eye out. I really, seeing this work in person is just completely different from any other way of seeing it, whether in the book or on a screen. Sarah is, of course, a phenomenal novelist, but we lost a pretty amazing photojournalist in gaining that novelist. When you come see this work in person and see the dust kicking up and her ability to catch these priceless moments is just incredible. So shameless plug finished. I will pass it on back to Sarah to answer some questions, but thanks everybody.
Hey,
Thanks,
Rowena,
Rowena.
I can never thank you enough for making this possible. I mean, the dauntless Rowena Dash, she pulled her way through the bureaucratic hurdles and whatnot, and made possible what I had dreamed of, which is that these photos could go to smaller communities, hopefully the ones where many of these photos were taken, so that I want all my subjects to be credited. Anybody watching, P.S. any of you watching right now who recognize anybody in these photos, and P.S. I'll give $100 to whoever can identify my dancing cowboy. He is such a rock star, and I unfortunately do not know who he is. I've identified, I'd say probably 70% of the actual subjects, but I'd like to know everybody in the stands and everybody, because this is just, it's a piece of history. I mean, I didn't consider it that when I was doing it. I thought I was gonna have a book, but the world had to change before that book had come out. And once again, Rowena, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, it's been absolutely my pleasure.
And just for everybody in the audience, we will drop links to both the Neil Cochran House Museum and anything else Rowena wants to share in our email that we send out tomorrow. So if you're not catching it there in the chat and you're struggling to write it down, don't worry, you'll have it in an email tomorrow. Thank you so much, Rowena. So Sarah, we have a lot of love for tonight's presentation going on in the chat. So many people are just thrilled to see these pictures and to hear your story. There's at least one question, and maybe some more will come. The question that we have from John Lewis is, he doesn't see any rodeo clowns. Did you come across any rodeo clowns?
No, I mean, and John may probably be familiar with one of the great rodeo clowns, Leon Black, who a black cowboy, just a superstar in that world. But so these were non-professional rodeos, small town affairs. And no, there were never any rodeo clowns. I never saw. I mean, I certainly saw them when I was photographing almost all the other rodeos. They had clowns, to divert the bulls and keep some of our participants from getting trampled. But no, good question. Thank you.
Jane, are you there, Jane Beaver? I thought you might want to come off of mute and mention the book that you were talking about. We can't hear you if you're talking. I can see that you came off mute.
I can see Jane's question. She's asking about Liz Lawless's book was written. And Jane, I am not familiar with that book. And thank you for bringing it to my attention, because I thought I was aware of all the Black cowboy books out there. And, as I'm just so grateful that I've stayed alive long enough, to see the world change, in which, the Black cowboys and cowgirls are now being celebrated. But I will have to look at.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Jane. I'd love to know what other resources are out there. It's interesting for all of us. So thank you for sharing that.
Again, now here's an interesting question. Maybe Rowena can answer this. Great story. How would a community request to host this exhibit? from my understanding, they write to Humanities Texas.
It's going to be on the Humanities Texas has a part of their website dedicated to their exhibition program. And it will be listed there, and there'll be a way to request it. It's not up there yet, but if you send me an email to my work email address, which is rhdasch@nchmuseum.org, and I'll put that in the chat for everyone. I can connect you with the right person. The Whitliff is already signed on for it at some point next spring. I think it's maybe March, April. So they are starting to field requests, but it's not officially up on their website yet.
Oh, hey, this is kind of, and Donnie is asking kind of the same question to get the exhibit to come to Brown County Museum in Brownwood. I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great idea. And look at Christy. She just jumped right in here with this. Well done. Well done.
We try to be of service. Did you see the question from Nancy about Fort Worth? She says, did you include any of the rodeos in Fort Worth?
No, I was concentrating on the area that is known as the Soul Circuit. And it's kind of within a 150-mile radius of Houston. And these little dinky towns that I mentioned, El Campo and Egypt and Plum. But that was just such a vibrant scene. I never ventured further. I mean, there certainly were Black rodeos being held in Louisiana, and Nancy, maybe you can tell me, were they also being held in Fort Worth? I think I heard that. That's true.
Yeah, Nancy, feel free to come off mute and
tell me about the rodeos in Fort Worth, Nancy, if you're still there. Meanwhile, Mary Vance, hello, Mary Vance. She's asking, she said, when I think of what preoccupied me in the late 1970s, ... And she goes on to say, I would love to hear more about how you were drawn to this world at that time in your life. It's hard to say what interests you, but as I say, I was a newcomer to Texas, and my background was in anthropology. And so, I was really interested in how cultures form people, and I came from a military family, military Catholic, big family. And I knew how intensely those influences had formed me. And so I came to Texas, and, maybe Texas, if you're not, like it's a goldfish being aware of water. But to me, Texas was cuckoo. I mean, there's so much about it that was cuckoo. I had, so my background is, as I say, mostly being raised in on overseas military bases. And in that world, it's very, very uncool to maintain a state identity. It's like the states are just, one of 50 fingers that can be clenched into a fist to protect the United States of America. And then to come to Texas and everybody's like, yay, we're the greatest, yay. I was like, okay, I've got to look into this. Where the greatest comes from? Which I continue to be fascinated by to this day about, but rodeos really were microcosms of that, and like Chadiatas had their own world, and girls' rodeos certainly had their own world, and the Native American rodeos, very distinct. And so, it was like I could travel without getting on a plane, without having a passport. So I would say that really accounted for a lot of it.
So Sarah, I just sent Christy a photo that I don't know if she's going to actually be able to put on the screen or not.
Did you send it to my email? I was just trying to.
Email, yeah.
Okay.
It's a photograph of you with a rather special young man who.
Oh, I'm so glad. Oh, I hope we can show that.
And if you would like to tell that story,
absolutely.
Really
how do I show that photo? Or
yeah, one second.
Working on it.
Yep.
So okay, I want first of all, if you call your attention to this gentleman, the bronc rider, which I talked about, Bailey's Prairie Kid. Yahoo! So at the opening of the show, and I had tried to get in touch with Taylor Hall, Bailey's Prairie Kid, as you can see on his tie, BPK. And so apparently there was something that I thought was a local television thing, but was broadcast elsewhere in the state. And so here's the amazing thing. Bailey's Prairie Kid, the kid, or Bailey, is 93 years old, still working on a horse every day. And his employer saw this segment and brought him to the show. I did not realize. Thank you for bringing that, Rowena. I need to include that photograph. That's super cool. And that was such a delight. I mean, and he's still sharp, like, that picture of us together, you kind of go, who is 93 in this picture? Because he looked great and, completely, but you see, so there he is, there he is. This, just astonishing. That was such a thrill. That was kind of everything I dreamed of coming true.
That's incredible. Donnie has a question about, when did the Juneteenth rodeos end?
I'm sorry, what?
When did the Juneteenth rodeos end? I think.
Oh, no, no. They haven't ended. No. They're definitely going strong. They're, but not in the sense, what I was trying to emphasize was the world that I portrayed was a mostly rural. This was an expression of their everyday life. These were ranchers and farmers, and they worked with livestock constantly. There's now a very well organized professional rodeo circuit called the Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo, and that is professional. It's held mostly in large city arenas, and the contestants are invited from all over the country. So it does not spring from the community in the way that the events I photographed did. I have heard that there are still some community events, Juneteenth community events, but I've lost my touch. I've lost my contacts in that world, so I couldn't really say.
I was wondering, did you reach out to some of the families?
Yeah.
So they know that this book is?
Yeah. When I was getting ready to publish the book, it was very important for me to identify as many of the subjects as I could. And, thank God the negatives had survived. I put them away. I had not stored my notes quite as well. And for the most part, they were gone. So I didn't have the identities. And as soon as I had the digital files, I started posting them on social media without a lot of hope that anyone would respond, because, they would have been people I photographed, would have been my age or older and rural. And I didn't know like how much online involvement there would be. But to my delight and great surprise, I got a lot of responses. And this wonderful woman, called up and said, "That's my father." And, this must go, "That's my uncle." And I actually talked to one of the subjects in the photos, and he just gave me lists of names, mostly nicknames. And that was, the way it was in rodeo. And so, he told me, "That's Bo Pink, that's Dynamite, that's Scrap Iron." And, that kind of sufficed in some ways, to meet the deadline for the book, that we could add those captions in. And then Texas Monthly did an excerpt, and, Bo Pink and Dynamite was not going to fly with Texas Monthly. They wanted actual names. And Harold Cash, wonderful, fabulous cowboy, helped me. I got in touch with Harold Cash, and he was able to give me the names to go with the nicknames. So, by and large, but it was a great surprise to me to find out that I had actually photographed so many legends, like Murtis Deitman. And he wasn't competing because he is professional at that point. But, have these candid shots of him just back, behind the shoots, helping the other cowboys. It just shows a wonderful side to him. And he really, truly is a legend, and also a wonderful human being. And then, of course, Bailey's Prairie Kid. And that is Archie Wyckoff, who I mentioned was in the documentary. And the steer wrestler is also famous. I'm blanking on his name right now, but that was a thrill. That was a thrill to find out that I had famous cowboys.
I wanted to mention,
there's a few comments in Facebook as well.
Right, I was just about to talk about that. Thank you. Donna, I see your comment over on the Facebook Live chat. The chat that we try to keep the eye on the most is over in Zoom, but I do see your question, and so we will ask right now our presenter. And so Donna is asking over on Facebook Live, are rodeos all integrated now? If yes, do Black rodeos continue?
They were actually, on the books, they were integrated back when I was photographing. In reality, Blacks were made to feel extremely uncomfortable if they went to a white rodeo, which I was always aware of, given how welcoming they always were to me. I mean, at no point did anybody go like, what's this white lady doing here taking our picture? I mean, everyone was so kind to me. And as I pointed out, especially Rufus Green. And, definitely would not have been the case had they gone to a white rodeo. So Jackie Robinson of rodeo is Myrna Steitman, and he was allowed into professional rodeo 20 years after Jackie Robinson integrated baseball. So, quite a lag. And that continues to this day for a number of reasons. I mean, rodeo is overwhelmingly white sport because of money considerations, because you have to have, it takes sponsors and it takes free time from work. So that prohibits a lot of really talented Black cowboys. It certainly, it just kind of breaks my heart to think about, like somebody like Bailey's Prairie Kid, if he had been allowed to compete, an even playing field. And as I said, this was illustrated in the prison rodeos, where, as I mentioned, the only actually desegregated rodeos at that time in the South. And, they were winning all around championships when allowed to compete on an even playing field. The Black convict cowboys there were many champions, many champions. So could you repeat the question? Did I answer that question?
Just asking if the rodeos are integrated, and if yes, are there Black rodeos still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Bill Pickett Invitational Circuit is the most famous. There are a couple others.
Does anybody in our audience want to come off mute and say anything to Sarah or ask a question? We still have a little bit of time, and I want to welcome you to the conversation.
And anybody who recognizes anybody, as I say, I would like to repeat that. If you recognize anybody, please let me know, especially the dancing cowboy. You'll win $100.
We need to get some very good researchers on this mystery.
I know. I took this photograph in Bastrop. This was one of the last photographs I took. And so my back, I was facing away because this guy was outside the arena behind me. And I heard Barry White's what is his song? Can't get enough of your love, baby. And I turned around and there this guy was. It was also the first Black rodeo I went to, the man who would become my husband.
Do you still visit any of the rodeos? I think you said this was specific to this time period in your life, right?
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
No, as I ran up, it broke my heart. It just broke my heart.
So I know that you haven't had these photos out, but do you feel like these photos or this experience has infiltrated your writing in other ways? Like, do you have
absolutely.
Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, my novel Virgin of the Rodeo was based on this experience. And I'd done all the research, and so I put it in. And I have my character is a young woman growing up in it's Fredericksburg or New Braunfels. I call it Dorfburg. And she goes on all she knows is that her father was a trick roper, and so she goes on the circuit to try to find him. And I got to revisit, all the rodeos, and especially the black rodeos. So that was fun.
So for you as a young person, when you went on the circuit, you took these photographs, how do you think that this changed your perspective of things?
It's a good question. Changed my perspective. I you know I it's kind of, I had a pretty hardened perspective by the time I arrived in Texas, because you know you get you get zeroed in when you grow up in a military Catholic family. That's your world. And honestly, I just credit growing up on the overseas military bases as kind of allowing me to see this world, that in the sense that, many of my friends like literally could not see it. Um, and yeah, did it change my perspective? Did it change my perspective?
I think that's a great answer, what you said. I mean, I think just
Okay.
yeah, because I think a lot of people might be curious about that time period and why you were drawn to that, and how did that feed into the person that you became, which is where I'm going with my questions.
Yeah,
And
I guess, I mean, from the first rodeo, as I pointed out, from the first rodeo I went to, it's like, these are astonishing.
mhm.
And I was just thrilled that apparently nobody else had discovered them. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to set the world on fire when they find out about this. Not so much. Not so much. So I see a question from, or a great comment from Tara Dudley, who, no, that's a great idea. She suggests that I reach out to the Bastrop County. Oh, what a good idea. Bastrop County African American Cultural Center and Freedom Colonies Museum.
Yep.
Thank you, Tara,
I
PhD.
have that same idea. So I can put you in touch with them, Sarah.
Awesome.
Yes, and
Very good.
I think that that is a perfect link for for
Yeah.
exactly this
I'd love
thing.
to give $100 to that museum.
Please do. It's a great museum. And thank you for Tracy, was that you that mentioned that?
Tara, it says here, Tara
Well,
Dudley.
Tara, the
I copied it
Tracy.
over from Facebook.
Oh, yes. Okay, great. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Thank you, Tara. Great, great tip. Very great tip.
Yeah, yes, thanks, Tara. Tara is uh she's involved quite a bit with a lot of the different movements, and so I think that this might be the way to find the connection for the photos. So this is great.
Yeah, I knew it would happen.
um any other questions from the audience? Does anybody?
Looks like Karen Pope has a question. Hi,
Okay,
Karen.
let's go for it.
Karen, you're muted. Do you know
Yep.
you're muted? You just like
Oh, it's
click the,
not a
oh, there
dumb
you go.
mistake. There we go. I've enjoyed this program. As the chair of the board of the Neil Cochran House Museum, I just want to say publicly how thrilled we all are that you accepted this collaboration with Rowena, and with the fabulous help of Humanities Texas, it has turned into the very successful project it has, especially that it will travel the state. It will be so good for everybody. It's a wonderful topic. Congratulations. Thank you for persisting. And
Thanks, Rowena.
I'm glad that Tara weighed in, because she's another star at the Neil Cochran House Museum. She's been a great asset in helping us with our
Oh, that's right.
latest
Yeah, hi,
project.
Tara.
So thank you all very much.
Hey, thank you, Karen. And, thank the Neil Cochran House Museum. And honestly, I just mentioned this to Rowena. We were at an event together a couple years ago, and it's like, hey, would this be a good? And she's like, let's get a grant. Yay.
All come together in a beautiful way. Thank you.
It's it's wonderful that these stories can finally be amplified and put into the light that they should have been all along, as you
Yeah,
mentioned.
that's kind of the way I feel. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's poignant to me that this information wasn't, this took 50 years, and there was this, as I say, the decades of invisibility. I don't know how much, if I'd gotten the book published 50 years ago, if it would have changed anything, but one never knows.
All right. So any final comments or questions for Sarah before we let her go back to the typewriter and get busy on the next book that we're all waiting for?
Hey, well, this is great.
I have a couple of questions, at least
Great.
one.
Go
The
ahead.
Bill Pick, can you hear me? Hello, can
Hello.
you hear me? You mentioned the Bill Pickett Invitational. You mentioned the Bill Pickett
Yeah,
Invitational circuit.
right.
There are other associations
Cool.
out, and my question is, are they all related? Are they all in collaborations, or are they independent of each other?
As far as I know, certainly the Bill Pickett is independent. I know there are Black cowboy associations. Honestly, I'm not the person to really ask about the contemporary scene. You know,
Yeah.
I can fill you in
Well,
on the
I
1970s.
was I was at uh, Taylor Hall, who you call Bailey's Prayer Kid's house, on last night, and we were talking about the emoji rodeo that's going on this weekend. Uh,
Cool.
and I was just, and I don't think that's the Bill Pickett circuit.
No, no, no. That's yeah, you're 100% right. And I think Harold Cash is sponsoring a rodeo in Galveston coming up pretty soon. So, you know, just like it was back then, but it's slightly less hard to find out about them now because of the internet. But they're still happening. They're still happening, and a lot of great writing, a lot of great roping. Um, so I wish I had more information, but
Yeah, but you just informed me of something. Harold Cash is sponsoring the rodeo in Galveston.
in Galveston, yes.
And is that something that's to be announced, or is that something ongoing, or what?
Uh, I I only know about it because um, I was invited to come and present during that, and I was unable to do it. And so I think it's coming up pretty soon. Um, I don't know if you type in your email here, in the little chat thing, I'll get some information and send it to you.
Okay, and
Are
I'm
you in
particularly
Galveston?
I'm in Angleton.
Okay.
Bailey's Prairie is about 8 miles north west of here, and we were having a historical committee meeting at Bailey's Place on
Oh
today.
my word.
Yeah, but back to the point, Harold Cash is event in Galveston. I'm interested in that, and I'm interested in some contact information on the Bill Pickett invitation
No,
circuit.
that's easy. That's easy. If you put that into Google, you'll get their whole schedule.
Okay, well then the Harold Cash would be a help if I can get that information from you.
Yeah,
The guy,
yeah. If you can type in your email address, I will send what I know to you.
all
Or
right.
Sarah, if you're comfortable with us providing your email address when we send out our follow-up email tomorrow,
Okay.
then folks can also reach out that way.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. That was very interesting, and I'm hoping that Humanities Texas can get the exhibit out your direction.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Well, Sarah, this has been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for taking us back in time to step into a space that I don't think very many, if any, of us have witnessed or seen before. So I'm grateful for this opportunity to share this moment
Well,
in
I'm
time.
thrilled to be able to share it with particularly this group, and I so appreciate what you do and what the Historical Commission does, and I hope everybody listening continues to support your wonderful work.
Thank you so much. And folks, if you know someone who might be interested in this presentation and they couldn't join us tonight, bless you, please feel free to share the link that we're going to send tomorrow with your group. We would love to amplify this story even more, so please do share with your networks. Feel free to email me as well. I'm happy to make any connections or provide any additional information that you might desire. And Sarah, once again, we're so grateful, and I can see that people are saying thank you in the chat. Mary, we appreciate that. And we hope that you'll join us in the future for future events. We hope that you will visit Rowena and her wonderful staff over at the Neil Cochran House Museum and see the exhibit there. And do all the things. Go see that, buy the book. We'll get you a link to the book. And stay tuned to the Friends of the THC for more presentations, because we hope to continue to amplify these stories and stories like them, and continue to talk about Texas history in these ways that we are not getting through mainstream methods. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you all next time. Goodbye.